Hey guys, Miss Mandy again. I am sitting outside today giving this lecture, so it's quite possible that you will hear dogs barking, lawnmowers, people working, so just try to ignore that. Okay, so this is going to be a short lecture on chapters 26 through 30 of Jane Eyre. And I had a really fun time making this one because I used a bunch of stick figures. So here we go. All right, so we have the wedding morning. So the last thing I spoke about was the crazy lady or somebody in Jane's room that tore her veil. And so now we're headed to the little church down the road, and you have different moods. Okay, so first we're going to start with the mood of Mr. Rochester. Mr. Rochester is very anxious, he's in a hurry, he's trying to get there quick. He's basically dragging Jane by the hand, dragging her into the church. He's impatient. Okay. So we get to the chapel. Mr. Rochester and Jane and the pastor. It's just them. And I think there's one other person there. There's supposed to be another person there to witness. So they're getting married. And then all of a sudden, these two people walk in. And we have Mr. Mason who's saying, "Stop the wedding." He already has a wife. Oh, there's a big truck back here. I don't know what our neighbors are doing behind us. Um, and this is a solicitor from London that Mason has brought. Okay. So Mason is telling the ceremony to stop, that Mr. Rochester already has a wife. Bum, bum, bum. I don't have any sound effects today. They're just going to have to be my voice. Okay. So they go back to the house. They go all the way up to the top of the house where Grace Poole has been. And he is still holding Jane Eyre by the hand. He's still dragging her around. Mr. Rochester shows the preacher, these two men, and Jane, the lady behind the door. It's not Grace Poole, it's a woman named Bertha. And Bertha is Mr. Rochester's wife. Okay, so hopefully you read all this because this is a huge spoiler. Okay. So Mr. Mason is saying, "That's his wife, that's my sister." This is not what he says, dude. Like, wow, I'm sorry, bro. I just put that in just to make it fun. Okay, so you have Jane Eyre. She's being drug around this whole time. And her emotions right now are one of shock. She's got a kind of a numb feeling. She's still in the process of processing all of this information at one time. I mean, you got to think about what this girl has gone through. The night before, a crazy lady was in her room, tore her veil. She's being drugged to a wedding. It's supposed to be this really happy, feel good occasion. Two men come in, break up your wedding, and then you're drugged to the top of this huge house and find a crazy lady locked away, and it's supposed to be your future husband's wife. Okay? That's a lot to take in. That's a lot, okay? Uh, and the crazy lady is the one who was in Jane's room that tore her veil. The crazy lady, Bertha, I'll quit calling her crazy lady. Bertha is also the one who set fire to Rochester's bed. Bertha is the one that has been laughing. It's the laughing that Jane has been hearing. It's not Grace Poole. Grace Poole is the one who has been hired to take care of Bertha. Okay. And it's when Grace Poole drinks too much is when not Jane, is when Bertha escapes and does all these crazy things. So you have this very no emotion Jane. And then around her, you have Mr. Rochester, who is having all types of emotions. He's going from one emotion to the next. He has remorse. He has love and passion. He has energy. He has a fierceness about him, a hurriness about him, worry. But in all the midst of all that, you have no emotions. It's almost flip flop. These are the emotions that a woman goes through, right? And Jane has the emotions of a man at this point. So we've got a total flip flop here. Um, that was supposed to come in with this. Okay, so this is the story of how Mr. Rochester got set up with Bertha Mason. Okay, hang on, let me go to the page because I want to make sure I read this correctly because I think some of this information is on the test. Um, 6. Okay, so Rochester's father sought a wealthy bride for his son. Rochester was sent to wed the girl. She was beautiful, but he knew nothing of her character. He knew nothing of the family. And his father and brother, who set all this up, did not leave Mr. Rochester and Bertha alone during their courtship. So he was unable to judge her character. So, in Mr. Rochester's ignorance and inexperience, he thought he loved Bertha. So, Rochester wed Bertha only to find that his wife was insane. Um, she was foul mouthed, she was drunk, a drunkard, she was unchaste. So, what happened is Rochester returned to Europe to conceal his wife and find a real companion and helpmate. Okay, so Rochester wants Jane to accompany him away from Thornfield to a place Rochester has in south of France. Basically, he's asking Jane to be his mistress. Okay. Um, and act. He says if they're in France, she can act as his wife, but legally, she would not be his wife. Okay. Um, she actually, because she loves him so much, almost does this. She almost becomes his mistress because he is so heartbroken and he needs her so badly. And she understands his circumstances and she almost just lets everything go. But she doesn't. She decides to run. And when she leaves in a hurry. Okay. This is her running. I love my stick figures. So she leaves in a hurry. She ends up wandering the moors. She sleeps on the ground. She's, walking on foot. She takes what they call the taxi back then. We would call it taxi now, as far as she could, as her money could take her. But then she doesn't have anything left. So she's wandering around. She's begging people um, to help her out, to please give her hungry, and they turn her away. She sleeps out in the rain. She ends up getting really sick, but she falls on the doorstep. Don't you just love this cottage? I love this. This is not the real cottage. I just put in cozy cottage, and this is what came up. Um, she ends up on the doorstep in the middle of the rain in front of this really uh, nice cottage. And this is who she meets. Hannah takes her, well, actually, Hannah tries to turn her away, and she's begging her, please, please don't turn me away because if you turn me away, I'm going to die. So Hannah actually distrusts her first because right now she doesn't look like anything worth taking in. Um, and St. John finds her and brings her on in. Now we have at this point she basically is so sick she passes out for days. I'm going through my notes. Give me just a minute. Um, let's see. 20 through 30. So Hannah is suspicious and turns her away, and St. John intercedes on Jane's behalf and brings her in. Both sisters, we've got Mary. I have the same thing because I couldn't, on short notice, I couldn't come up with anything. So you have Diana and Mary, and they are the sisters of St. John. So Diana is warm and charming, and both sisters, and Mary responds with gentleness, and both sisters excuse a curious sympathy of St. John. Totally read that wrong. Okay. Both of the sisters are very sympathetic. They're also very curious as to who she is. Sorry, trying to read notes and click at the same time. St. John's attitude is cold speculation. Okay, but by the end of chapter 30, Hannah has come to trust Jane, and Diana and Mary both exhibit a mutual affection and intimacy with Jane. And St. John is still at a distance, just observing. Okay. Um, and then, so St. John here is a pastor. He's a pastor to, I guess you would call it a, oh, I've lost my word here, to a vicinity. That's not the word I want to use. You're probably on the other side of the screen going, I know what it is. You're trying to tell me what it is. A little area, a little town, that he's pastor to, walking distance. It's a walking distance. And you would think for a pastor that you would get kindness, forgiving, sympathy, gentleness, loving. And he's just not. He's just a cold pastor. I would not, this is not the kind of pastor that is approachable. This is not the kind of pastor that I would confide in, because I would fear I would be judged. And he's just, I don't know, he's just not what you would expect. And I don't really think this is who Jane would have expected. Okay. A leader of God's flock should be forgiving and willing to be mediator for you. He should be wise and sympathetic and gentle. And he doesn't appear to have any of these. I think that's the last. Yeah, that's my last one. So this was a very short coverage. So I will be probably have another one of these videos ready for tomorrow. So I hope you guys are enjoying these um, little short snippets of our lectures. But that's all I got for now. Y'all enjoy.